It's a good day and a perfect time to have a guest in the studio and to tap into the energy of Adinla and I. Welcome to another episode of Niger Pulse Podcast, where Gismis with governance for the culture for the future. As per usual, my name is Becca Beckins.
And my name is Adinla. You know how we do it here on Niger Pulse Podcast. A very amazing episode because we have a very beautiful guest right here.
That is amazing. Do we do the introductions or we should let her introduce herself? But hey guys, her name is Amy Ekwa, but she goes Ekwa. Egwa. Pardon me. Her name is Amy Egwa. So I'm going to let her introduce herself because she is gorgeous, brilliant, and she's someone that sets the tone extremely high. She walks the walk and talks the talk. How are you, darling?
I'm very well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Why are you acting so shy?
I'm not shy.
So Ames is a filmmaker. This is just a brief introduction about who she is. She's a filmmaker and an inclusion advocate whose work focuses on amplifying unrepresented voices. She's also the director of an amazing documentary called The Forgotten Citizens. It is an award-winning documentary about people who are living with disabilities in Nigeria, okay? And she's committed to reshaping narratives across the Black and the African experience through film. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And over the course of this episode, we're going to delve into her bodies of work, okay? But you know the vibe. This segment is all about entertainment, gist, and gossip. Adela, give it to us hot.
It's nice to have Amy here. And it's very amazing to see that your face escaped the many punches that were being thrown this week. Because yesterday, it was a tug of war between Very Dark Man and Mr. Jollof.
And Team Video, by the way, guys.
Any which team we fell, I just know the evidence of the fight was obvious on one person than the other. So whichever
I
person,
feel like Video beat him up.
But then look at the two of them. Who do you think was beaten?
I feel like the reason why Video could not throw too many punches was because of Funny Bones.
No, I think the reason why Jollof could not throw too many punches was because it was in a confined space.
Was VDM not in a confined space?
No, VDM had all of the space.
If Jollof was strong, why didn't he come out of that headrest that they kept him?
Now, let me tell you something here. VDM has brought shame to all of those gym guys because it's not about muscle now. Odmodo has said it. If you like gym, no.
Amy, what do you think?
Did you even see the video, Amy?
Of course I did.
Oh.
But I like to remain neutral.
I'm Team VDM.
I'm not an advocate for I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Okay, I
That's
see.
true. No, I don't fight as well. I don't like fight.
I'm a mixture of both.
I mean, I'll fight if I need to fight, but like
you will fight. No, don't let anything.
No, because
touch your
but
face,
life
please.
you need to fight, you fight now. But I'm a lover first.
So let's say Mr. Jollof needed to fight to defend
You did
himself.
not see the head boots.
It was sitting pretty when somebody came to attack him.
You did not see the head boots Very Dark Man gave you.
But where's the result of the head boots?
Didn't you see it?
Where's the result on his face?
Did you not see the
come
contact?
on, I'm talking about results now.
You
Where's
don't
the result?
have to have results.
If you tell me where's the result of Mr. Jollof putting his hand in Very Dark Man's eye, you see it very evident.
So,
his eyes were
choking
red.
someone's eye and head booting, which one is greater?
Where's the result? Come on.
But,
Mr. Jollof looks fresh as just the way he got into that fight. Came out that fresh.
We saw the video with our koro eye.
But then you saw Mr. Jollof after the fight, looking just the same way he got into the fight.
One
but look
man
at
go
VDM.
bite another man's breast.
Come on, look at VDM. Bite on his chest, red eyes. Like, did he have? He got apology in the course of the fight.
I feel like sometimes on social media we tend to talk a lot of talk, right? And we just feel like, because we're behind our keypads and we can't.
Cameras. So you like action.
I like the fact that Omo is on site, Abi, and VDM said, anytime I see you, I go tell you that slap first before you tell me that slap. And I love the fact that he kept to his word, period.
No. He did not keep to his word, actually, because he was going there to give the first slap, but then he got the first attack.
Either way, he kept to his word. And either way, he throw and punch too, and he had boot him.
So anyway,
and he locked him, like a wrestler. I love VDM, man. I love
when he locked somebody and he got injured from locking somebody.
Repercussions for action.
That situation does not quite explain itself well.
Well,
But
at the
then
end of the day,
it is what it is.
a lot of people say
I'm
VDM
glad.
shall beat him.
No,
so
me, I'm of the side of that opinion that show us the evidence. After the fight, let's look at the two of them. Come on, somebody was injured, the other person went uninjured. So
it's
to
always
me,
the weak link that always does the biting.
so it's only the strong person that goes home
now
injured after a fight.
So you are saying your course of defense is choking hand into somebody's
Yes, that's
eyes and
part of
biting
it.
chest.
That's part of it. That's
Now why
part
they
of it.
put am?
That's
'Cause
why
you
they
don't
call
get
it a fight.
sense.
That's why they call it a fight. So, any which ways, I'm glad Becca's face escaped the many punches from this
Exactly.
fight.
God.
Our guest, our beautiful guest, Amy, you escaped all of these punches.
I did.
And myself, I escaped it too. So, back to this, and welcome to the Japos podcast
Welcome.
once again. And we are welcoming our amazing guest. And
We're glad to have you,
come on.
actually.
Thank you.
Glad.
I'm glad to be here.
We're more than glad to have you, and we'll just let you tell us something about yourself, what
Yeah.
inspired you into advocacy and
Filmmaking.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's always funny when I get this question because I don't think there was a real path like in the beginning. I am a filmmaker because when I was like I studied film in university, so I was just naturally drawn to it.
Theater art. Yeah.
No, like film, like
Film,
actual
okay.
film. So I went to film school. I studied film and
nice.
English in my undergrad. Then I did my master's in film directing,
Wow.
and it was just a constant pull towards film. I think that happens when you get a clear calling from God. I am a believer, so
So the
go
place
figure.
of spirituality still.
It
has a
100%
part
was.
to play.
But the funny thing is, I didn't like when I was a child. I never thought about being a filmmaker. I wanted to be so many different things. I wanted to be a gymnast. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be like just a lot of different things. And then
destiny
it
brought you
literally
where-
came to me the summer before I went to university. It
Wow.
was
Are
the
you
most
serious?
Like I had actually applied to. Oh no, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I applied to fashion schools around the world. Didn't even get into my top 3 fashion schools. And then literally like a month or two before like the application window closed, I got into a film academy. It was like you can't make this up. It has to be God. And so that's just a very clear indication that I was like, it's a calling to use filmmaking as a platform to like a service, really to humanity, to share stories of underrepresented voices, which is, that's where I am currently, and I believe that's where I'm going to continue to go or venture through film. And so with my current project, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about, that really just stemmed out of like curiosity and compassion, and that's how I want to approach everything that I touch as a filmmaker. I want to just be very curious. I think that's where you get the best stories. Just not having a set outcome in mind, not having an agenda, but being able to like really lean into it and say, what is the story here? And opening up worlds that are a bit obscure or have a bit of vagueness to them. That's the beauty of really uncovering a story and of
That's
people, because they get to
amazing.
open up and yeah.
That's amazing. I think you're walking in line with purpose, and
Yeah.
it is deep, it is amazing, it is fulfilling. Just hearing you talk
100%.
about how things, panned out for you and how lines fell in pleasant places.
Literally.
I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I know this is not your first project, but this is an amazing project that, you've literally premiered for the world to see. It's called The Forgotten Citizens. It is
Yes.
out on YouTube, right? Already?
Not yet.
Not yet. Just
Next
the
month.
teaser.
The trailer
Is out already. Okay, amazing. So I want to know what inspired this documentary and what kind of stories or perspective did you want to highlight through The Forgotten Citizens?
So I think to put it plainly, The Forgotten Citizens was birthed out of just this heavy burden I had for people who have been pushed aside, on the margins, to be seen and heard and to be authentically represented. I have a bit of an affinity towards persons with disability because growing up in the US and like even going to school in the UK and in Europe, like we see these people like they're integrated into society. And so moving back to Nigeria, I'm seeing them like begging on
Yeah,
the
being
street.
secluded.
Yeah, they're very secluded. But even the ones that are visible, you see them like on the streets. They're begging. They're on like wheelchairs, and it's very odd. It's like it's jarring.
So it looks like here in Nigeria, it just when you are a person with disability, your place is by the roadside begging for hands.
that's one dimension, but the other dimension is the people who you don't even see, and that's more concerning, because you have people with like children with learning disabilities, even adults with like learning disabilities. There's a wide spectrum of those disabilities. There are people with hearing impairment, visual impairment, mobility disabilities. Like there's so many disabilities, but do you really see them? Even culturally, the way that Nigerians think about disability is very unfortunate, for lack of better words. And so it hides them. Parents that give birth to children with disabilities, they hide them. Or they want to find a way to
Looks
heal
like a
them.
stigma.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very, they are stigmatized by society culturally. And that's not really the case overseas. I mean, they're really integrated. I went to school with kids who had different disabilities. Sure, they were put into a special program, but they were not hidden.
so you've been
Yeah.
a strong voice for advocating for people with disabilities and all of that. But then
100%.
you said coming to Nigeria, it looks quite different from what you had
Abroad.
abroad.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, looking at Nigerian social media space, media generally, how do you think the Nigerian media portrays people with disability? Because sometimes you see challenges on TikTok. This TikTok challenge, there's one recently where it's a Yoruba challenge actually, which is interpreted when you see someone with disability, have mercy on them, be compassionate to them, give them arms, give them. So it is surprising at first when I started seeing people with no disabilities mimicking
Are you
people with
serious?
disabilities.
They do it, and
but
it's
then
not-
at
yeah.
some point, I started seeing people with real, actual disabilities also joining the trend. So it turned to something more like cruise on social media. But
Instead
then,
of it being awareness.
it's more like an awareness. But now it's now cruise. But then, so how do you see the Nigerian social media space? Like, how do they portray people with disabilities, or are they properly represented on Nigerian social media space?
Okay, so I'll speak on media generally,
Yeah.
because social media is just like a subsection
Fraction,
of
yeah.
media. So media shapes perception, right? Everything we know about the world, for the most part, is through media, because you cannot be in two places at one time. So in order to have an insight into another world is through like media. And who shapes media? It's people, it's systems, right? Now, what we tend to see in Nigeria is around persons with disabilities are usually like charity driven narratives, or like pity, or on the highest end inspirational narratives. And all of them, in my honest opinion, are problematic, even the ones that are trying to inspire people. And why do I say that? Because people with disabilities are just people. They're human beings. It's just another they just reflect a different layer of the human experience, right? So relegating them to like, oh, charity, let's give them alms. I've even seen like what you meant about like TikTok. I've seen a few TikTok pages where people will go around, their mission is to be handing out money, and then it's like, oh, they get 1 million likes. Wow, you're doing so good. Okay, so now when you give a person with disability or a beggar, or someone begging on the road, that's I don't want to say a person, let's say that is visual has a mobility disability, right? In Nigeria, we call them crippled or by a very terrible language to use, to address them. But when you're giving them charity, it perpetuates that. So it now puts them as they deserve, just like you said, alms. But what they really need is a system that is inclusive. They need to be integrated into
brings out their
society.
potentials.
If those people are empowered, they wouldn't have to be on the road for you to be giving them handout. Why can't that person have a job, that is tailored to their uniqueness, that can give them 200K a month or 500K or 1 million, so that you don't have to do that? If you choose to, as a as a
an
compassionate
individual.
individual, you're generous, that's
Yeah.
fine, because we give to each other. Even people who don't have disabilities, we give to each other, and that's normal. But the narrative is that they need help, they need charity, and then now the byproduct of that is that we have a few saviors who are giving aid and charity, and then they're now oh, you're helping these people. They don't need help, they need to be included, period.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're highlighting all of this, difficulties that they face. But I want to know, what roles do you think that the government should play? Or in what areas are the government lacking currently before we step into what they can do? How will you highlight all of the lack of inclusivity that, people with disabilities are going through now? And how do you think the government can, do better?
Okay, so many people don't know this, but there's a law in place, and there has been one for the past over 5 years now. It's called the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act.
Okay.
It was passed into law in 2019, and there was like a moratorium period. There was a 5-year period or like a deadline for implementation across the 36 states in Nigeria. And that's a very noble thing. It's good when there's a law, it's a framework, right? A legal framework. However, when people are not aware of it, how does implementation happen?
Yeah,
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So, so even though that policy has set the framework and it's supposed to be implemented, the cultural mindset around persons with disability has not changed. So yes, government can do its work to like it can pave the way, but the citizens have to now comply. They have to fall in line. And there needs to be an agenda. So that's why I was saying before, like the mentality around disability there's been no shift as far as I'm concerned. It's still charity based. People don't even see them as human beings. So if government can really be more aggressive in their implementation, again, what happens in Nigeria is that when the different regime, when government changes hands, things get a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
And so maybe if there was somebody in the previous regime who was a very active driver of this cause, and then a new person is not as active or
That seems to, like,
passionate,
die out.
the momentum dies. So the momentum needs to be picked up again, and then there needs to be a national agenda to sensitize its citizens
I
so
think-
that we can see disability different, and then the citizens can now, it can be like a private, public, partnership to drive inclusivity, across Nigeria.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But then you said something about inconsistency in government. That is when one
Exactly.
government comes in, and oftentimes we've seen government initiative that comes like, okay, for people with disabilities, we are doing this. There's this program in place.
Exactly.
But sometimes I think the way people accept that news, they don't really trust that, okay, this can actually work. And when the government puts structures in place for people with disabilities to be able to cope and get included in the day-to-day activities of the society, and it looks like the response from the people self is not encouraging, because somehow probably they don't trust the process, or somehow some people don't even think it's real. I think there comes the place of sensitization, and it comes in different ways: filmmaking, storytelling, and all of this. And you being a person that sees ability in disability, and you are coming from the angle of storytelling and all of this, how do you think storytelling now can complement government efforts in inclusivity of people living
Raising
with disability?
awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, so storytelling makes policy personal. So again, back to what I said, media shapes narratives, it shapes cultural mindsets, right?
Yeah.
And storytelling is a part of that shift. So now if we're telling stories, we're showing them authentically, like not actors trying to be people who are disabled, but actual persons with disability in films or in maybe on you. Like there needs to be inclusion in all spaces in government. I know the government is trying, is there hopefully will be, they'll they'll pass a bill. That's House Bill 1931, and we'll get into that a bit later. But like for the current Disability Act, it's not just about like accessibility, like, creating ramps and stuff like that, but even employment. So employers are required to not discriminate against a person with disability. And that's a good thing, because if you're in a workspace and you're seeing your colleague has a disability, but he's in that space, a person with disability can be a manager. They can be, they can work in HR. They can show their creative talents in a creative space, whatever the case may be. You can have an interpreter in a hospital, in a school, that kind of thing. Then it normalizes it. So you saying that people are like, they don't believe it's real because they have not seen it. And that's why the Disability Act actually has to be implemented. They have to make it real. They need to push it so that when you're interacting with people on a daily basis that are disabled, it's normal to you. You know what I'm saying? So that even if you have a sibling or a family member or a neighbor that has a disability, they're not stigmatized. Like, oh, this is not, you don't have to say, that person, if this is really for lack of better words, but this is what Nigerians say. that person where crippled, or that person where gets their head no correct. Like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? When you're saying that, it's very damaging. It's extremely harmful.
And demeaning.
It's demeaning. You need to be able to say Timothy or Sandra or Ebuka, not name them
By their
Yeah.
their
disability.
disability. Be like, oh yeah, she has it, but because they're so normalized, you're seeing them in the storekeeper has a disability, but she's working. Your driver, could be like have a hearing impairment, but he's able to be your driver.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna. They're like another human being that you're interacting with. So
Yeah.
that's what needs to happen. But the Disability Act is very key in really pushing that, and that starts with like inclusion in education, employment, public spaces, that kind
And
of thing.
I also think even right from childhood, they should also include all of these
Yeah, I
children with
think
disabilities
communities
in the
should
education
be-
process.
Yeah.
Because you
Exactly.
mentioning all of this, I think education plays key role.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
they have been relegated from childhood, there's no way they can cope.
Exactly.
Because I'm even thinking about like grassroots communities,
Yes.
right? A lot of them don't even know how blind people communicate.
They don't.
So, because I remember working in a company, and one of the award-winning best newscaster from Lagos is blind, like currently, but
Wow.
he reads the news like an amazing, said award-winning, so he's top tier. But
Right.
a lot of people do not know he's blind, and in the group he communicates like. I don't want to use the word like a regular person, but like someone who isn't visually impaired. You see how I had to be very careful to choose the right word, because the community or Nigeria or Africa at large has used certain words to describe these people,
Yeah.
and they are so secluded, and we're not educated enough to even bring ourselves to that position to understand how they get by their day-to-day lives. I'm thinking of the pedestrian bridges in Nigeria.
Yeah.
There is no room for someone who has a wheelchair. I see
Exactly.
them using their crutches in Lagos to climb
climb.
those long staircases. And I'm like, why?
And it's against the law. The funny thing is, it's actually illegal.
Yeah.
It is illegal by law because the Disability Act has been passed, and it actually says that all public spaces must be made accessible. If it's a private house, that's your business. You built it.
Yeah.
You don't need to include people because that's how you wanted to design the space. But as far as it's a public space, like you said, a pedestrian bridge, a hospital, a school,
I'm even
a
thinking
religious
of hotels. Hotels don't have staircases. If their
do you
elevator
understand?
is not working, it's just proper staircase, and there's not one for
Yeah.
a crippled person to use their wheelchair to go upstairs.
serious.
And you know what is even, let me even tell you why that's even more sinister than we're discussing here. Because it shows that nobody's really thinking about their neighbor.
Disabled, yeah.
Which means that we have an empathy issue in Nigeria.
Fact.
Do you know what
I agree.
empathy means? Empathy means being able to put yourself in another person's shoes.
Yeah.
We all know Nigerians culturally very extremely selfish. I mean, God bless this country, but even it trickles down. It trickles down. That's selfishness. You're not your brother's keeper. You're not looking out for the next person. So it's rooted in a lack of consideration, a lack of empathy, a lack of compassion. The fact that you can build even a hospital which is meant to serve all people, an
Yeah.
educational institution that's meant to be for all persons, a religious venue, church, mosque, whatever you want to call it, and you didn't think that somebody. So who was meant to come in these places? Like, that is very concerning. It's extremely
Yeah.
sinister when you really think about it deeply.
Yeah.
And why it's even, let me even take it a step further. It's not about the people that were born that way. Anybody can become a person with disability at any
Anytime.
time. All it takes is one accident. Every human being is one accident away,
From
one injury,
disability.
one sickness, one misfortune away from a disability.
Yeah.
I mean, in my documentary, at least half of the in fact, almost all the people that I interviewed in my documentary were not born with a disability. It was one woman in my documentary. She was able to hear up until I think in the mid 90s when she was sick. She had like malaria or something. They took her to the hospital. They gave her a wrong injection. That's how she could not hear again till today.
My God.
Did she predict that? So
No.
imagine maybe living up to the age of 20, you can hear, you can speak. Now you have to learn sign
Yeah.
language. But your community, your society has not even built in the way that they have thought about
A
that.
typical Nigerian cannot even understand sign
Sign
language.
language.
Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So in my own family, like I've seen injuries. My mom had a double knee replacement for months. She had to use crutches or a wheelchair. I've lived with that. Maybe that's why I'm a bit more compassionate. But imagine it starts to open your eyes because we have to think twice. Can we actually go here? It's like, I want to go to. Wait, we actually can't take you out right now because we get there, you won't be able to enter
going, yeah.
So you realize Up until maybe 5 years ago, she was working perfectly, but because of arthritis, she couldn't really walk that well. You know, I've had friends who they were at a sporting, they were playing sports, injured, boom.
Yeah.
Now you're on you're
Crutches.
you're on crutches, or even worse, paralyzed.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
It's
even
crazy,
yeah,
yeah.
it's really, really deep. So this is not about them versus us. It's all
It's
of us,
everybody.
everybody.
It's a us versus us situation at the
Quite
end of the day.
literally.
Yeah.
Quite
So, Amy, I
literally.
want to ask you, as someone working closely with communities, as we're talking about, what kind of support or partnership would strengthen the impact of advocacy projects like yours, like the Forgotten Citizens?
So there needs to be a lot of collaboration. What government is amazing. They need to be involved in these conversations and in the change that's happening. But the private sector, organizations, advocacy groups, they need to just collaborate more. It needs to be, there needs to be like not a one-off donation or like an event. And we see that a lot, especially in like the humanitarian space. Like, oh, let's come together and have conversations. We don't need any more conversations. Everybody knows what needs to happen. We need a plan, an actionable plan or a measurable plan. And then we need to just go into communities and sensitize people and make it a national agenda. Like
Yeah.
it needs to be a conversation with legs, right? And communities need to build capacity. So if you're entering communities, it's not about just sensitizing them. How do you now help that person to now be to be empowered?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You need to empower them, show them the way, create small opportunities where they can now become, employable or like active. Then the shift will now begin from there.
Yeah.
We don't need I don't want to say we don't need any more donations, because donations do help, but it's a
course.
short-term fix.
Yes.
It doesn't lead to sustainable change.
Yeah,
On a
you're,
long
you're,
run.
you're talking about a long-term
Exactly.
something that could work for a very long time.
Exactly.
And to make this happen, I think this has to be everybody's business.
It
But
needs to be
it looks
everybody's
like
business,
like in Nigeria today, that is the business of those that are extra rich or those that are extra compassionate. So like
100%.
now, if we are saying we want to sensitize the people, and especially young people now, how do you think now we can get young people involved, whether in media, education, or how can young people get involved in this
Movement, pretty much.
inclusivity of the disabled people?
So I think people just need to just be more vocal. If you care, if you see somebody that's doing it and if you're not doing it, support what they're doing. Repost. Like one thing I love about Nigerians is that when we decide that something matters, we show
Yeah.
up. But we show up for some of the silliest things. There will be a trending topic that will take over Twitter for 1 week or even 72 hours or 24 hours, and we're all camped there. But some of these things don't even matter. They don't,
Yeah.
it's like, it's very trivial in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that we're able to even galvanize in that way, like if we want to cancel somebody's seat,
Yeah.
we're canceling them.
So
It'll be a
fast.
whole campaign. So let's actually have those kind of campaigns towards the things that matter, right? So disability inclusion is a great place to start because it's in your face, literally. So if you're seeing somebody that's already doing that, support them, amplify that movement the same way you'd amplify nonsense, because that's what we do
Yeah.
anyways.
Every day.
Our fingers work perfectly because we know how to retweet things that are not
That don't make
Yeah.
sense.
that don't make
Yeah,
sense.
just cruise.
So I think that's the one step. And then if you have the capacity or if you're connected to someone or an institution or organization that might have the capacity, start that conversation for like funding, for
Yes.
community-led initiatives. If you see an initiative, be a part of it. Don't be complacent. Don't admire from afar. Like
Yeah.
stand
Be
for
part of it,
something. I
yeah.
always say that
Yeah.
like one issue in Nigeria that I hate is that Nigerians don't really stand for much.
Yeah.
We think we do, but we don't. We have very strong opinions, but we don't stand for much. And that's why there's so much toxicity in our society. Nobody's really standing for anything. We're standing for it. We have Twitter, trigger fingers. That's it. So if people begin to stand for something and just like support things that matter, I think that, change will surely come. And then the money will move in that direction. Because there's
Yeah.
money. We're very, very
Buoyant.
we have the
Yeah,
capital.
we do.
We do.
But we don't just invest it in the right
Do
In
you
the right
understand?
thing.
So once things like we make something important, we declare that this matters, the funding will come. Whether it's from, foreign investment, private, it will come, but we have to decide that it matters. I'm in full support of the House bill. It's House Bill 1931. And that bill seeks to amend the Constitution to create like reserved seats for persons with disability in all tiers of government, from national, state to local government,
assembly
and
as
that's
well.
amazing because you need to see people who look like you
Yes.
in power, right?
Yes.
So that it's possible. But before that, if they're in the seat of power, they can now create laws or initiatives they can,
Yes.
that will
Like a clear
impact.
path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they know it, because they've lived that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So it's not somebody saying it for,
For
them.
them,
It's
it's
them speaking for themselves.
Yeah, they know
yeah.
better than anyone else does, and they can be more they can push that agenda better
Yeah.
because they're already there.
Yeah. So I do agree with you. Like Becca has said also, like getting these people involved, bringing them in, it's a welcome development. And earlier you said, imagine you having somebody who you think, okay, because he's therefore he cannot hear, instead of him staying on the streets, since he can drive or he can be your driver or he's not physically disabled, of course he can do
Yeah.
that. But have you thought of outcome or performance now? Imagine you having somebody, okay, he could read the signs on the road, he can read the traffic lights, he has the ability to drive. But then, as your driver, imagine in a situation where you don't understand sign language, or you have to like write down and read and show him to read before he can understand. Probably you are changing direction, you're not going that way again or anything. Have you thought of performance, of output? Also in places where you think, okay, in the offices where you say, okay, this person he has impediments walking, so he's using his brain to walk and he's using his hand to write. He can actually fit in this situation. But what of when you have situations where this person needs to move around? Of course, I think this is something that would affect their productivity, their output. So in cases like this, do you think it is not us just being too emotional to say, okay, we want to bring about inclusivity of disabled people?
So I think I'm gonna go back to what you were saying about like your driver or the staff, right? So I don't think it's like everybody has their unique gifts. Everybody has their unique calling. You can't, like when they say you can't you can't fit a square peg into a round hole, right? So logically, a driver who needs to get around and can't really communicate, that's not the role for him. You know what I'm saying? And this is why inclusion is such an important topic that needs to be understood. It's not just include them, just put them like, because that's what we think. Okay, when you hear inclusion, people get annoyed. Okay, let's employ them. No, it needs to be like tailor-made. Just like me, I'm not called to work everywhere. I'm not called to do everything. Neither are you, right? So when you're including people, you're also taking into consideration their uniqueness, right? And what is
If they're qualified, pretty much.
and you're able to qualify them better. It's not like some people have there's different forms of intelligence: creative intelligence, intellectual intelligence. It could be like art, physical. Like there's so many tiers of intelligence or giftings, and it's important to really like find out what each person is good at and where they fit. But also there needs to be training. So that's another part of the national agenda, and it's happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening surely. There are a lot of like there's organizations and there's partnerships happening to like build capacity building programs to understand each person's capabilities so that you can know where to fit them economically or
But have you seen any kind of scenario where somebody with disability outshines somebody with no disability when they are given same tax? Like, have you seen any scenario like that?
So I would say that your phrasing is problematic. And I hate to be a contrarian, but it is, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not, that now pushes us back to like, oh, better than. It's not about being better than. Are you good? Yes or no, period. And let me just paint a picture for you, right? Do you ever, okay, maybe because when you look at the world of competitive sports, in the Premier League, we all have our favorite teams, Chelsea, Man U, whatever the case may be. You're not going to say that one team is less qualified than the other because they're there. They're professional athletes. There's a reason why they're there and you're not there, even if you love football, right? They're all qualified. But whether one team wins or loses doesn't make them less qualified to be professional athletes. It's circumstantial. It was just who won at that time. So you can't really compare a person with disability versus a person that doesn't have a disability and say, oh, is this person better than, because the limitations are already clear. It's not even a fair comparison to make. And it's not fair, one. And then two, that they each have their unique strengths, that they bring you. That's why there's Paralympics, for example.
Exactly.
They compete amongst themselves, right?
And they're a lot faster. Some of them are
and
a
some
lot
of them are
faster,
even faster.
with people with two
Exactly.
legs.
No.
But even in the let's say in an inclusive space where there are both sides, like people with disabilities, people without disabilities. Again, you have to just understand what their strengths are, what their limitations are. Have you ever seen a blind painter?
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
They're blind paint. Let me even say Stevie Wonder is blind.
And he
He's
plays the
the-
keyboard and he plays,
Do you understand?
sings remarkably.
These things happen. You cannot out piano Stevie Wonder or even out sing, Stevie Wonder.
Even when I can see the
Yeah,
change.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of people like that. And that's why I said there's different types of intelligence. So it's really just about understanding and then appreciating their uniqueness and then, allowing them to really exist in a world that is already ready to have them there.
I understand the place of their uniqueness
Yeah.
and all, but what I'm also saying again is this. Is it fair now? So now say, okay, just in the case of wanting inclusion or inclusivity, bringing them in and giving
No,
them
but
the
she
chance
said
to
qualification
Now,
already.
Yeah.
If they
in
are
that place
qualified,
of
bring them in.
qualification too, talking about that qualification, is it now fair now to expect same results
Okay,
from them?
let me stop you there.
From somebody that is disabled and the other one who is not.
So we're not trying to get the same results. We're trying to create inclusion. Again, you need to empowerment is not just put them in that space. When you work in an office, don't you need to be trained?
Of course.
Exactly. So that same person, they need training as well. But their training might look different because they may have their disability their training will not be the same as yours because it needs to be tailor-made to their disability.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's
Spot
really
on.
it.
She answered your question.
Yeah.
Partially.
So that they can now just be competent. It's not about who's better than, can they do the job? Yes or no. That's
So there are some
basically, it's about inclusion. It's about giving them the chance to actually contribute to society.
Beautifully said.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I think
Not about performance and output.
It
No,
would be.
it's also a factor. I think, like, take for instance, we're in an office setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is my strength to know how to write scripts.
Right.
It may not be exactly my strength to know how to act out the script or present the script.
Exactly.
To be your strength.
Oh, okay.
So you may be disabled now and you know how to read my script remarkably, but you don't know how to walk. And then I know how to write and I don't know how to
Exactly.
present.
So at the end of the day,
you scratch your back, I scratch my
at
back
the end of the
because
day,
you are
it's still-
qualified.
Yeah, it's still fitting them in positions
Yes,
where they
Like,
can perform.
I'm even
Yeah.
thinking back to when I was in primary school. I never saw anybody that was crippled in my class or visually impaired.
Because they were hidden.
Because they were hidden, So I just really feel like they should be included from the grassroots, from our
Exactly.
core foundation, so
Exactly.
that we can grow up with them and not see them as them. They are us.
Less privileged.
Exactly. Okay. I love this and I love this conversation. It's an extreme eye opener. And I want to know, what positive changes have you observed in how private and public sectors are beginning to include persons with disabilities?
So there's a growing awareness that accessibility and inclusion is not charity. It's part of national development.
Yeah.
So that is already like a movement that's happening, even though it's in its infancy, I would say.
Yeah.
It's happening, especially with the presence of like global and foreign organizations who have already done the work in their economies. They're bringing that knowledge, that experience, and that insight here. So there's a lot of collaboration happening, even nationally and locally. Like there are partnerships, like there's public-private partnerships, trying to drive inclusion. There are workspaces that are even having like accessibility audits. Yeah, like they're going into spaces saying like, is your workspace inclusive? They're about, especially the more forward-thinking spaces, they're already doing that. They're training like the staff on disability etiquette, and just how to be inclusive.
That's good.
Yeah, because it's important, because just even if you don't have a staff that's a person with disability in your staff body of staff, you need to prepare for them. You need to have the mindset that can even drive inclusion, because it starts with us first, right? So you see like companies, organizations, office spaces are training staff on disability etiquette. They're trying to drive inclusion in their own, small way. They're doing accessibility audits and making their workspaces more inclusive. And then they're also partnering with disability groups and advocacy groups. Or advocacy groups are actually going out and actively trying to sensitize, the
Sensitization is
workspaces.
very important because
Yeah.
something crossed my mind now, and it's about this disability called deafness and dumbness. We see them communicate most time with sign languages. Now, imagine that kind of a person, or in this kind of society where we are, where we feel sign languages is meant for those people with that kind of disability that they can't speak or they cannot hear. Now, imagine that kind of a person with that disability going out to like try to buy something in the market, and the market woman that you want to buy something
Cannot
from does not
understand.
understand sign
Right.
language. So, what do you think? How do you think we can get everybody carried along, even to the market women, to understand sign language is something you should know?
I think education from school,
That was
pretty
what I was
much.
gonna
Yeah.
say.
If you educate students in school, first of all, they can come home to teach their parents. And then in communities, you can have like a weekend where people that don't have kids in school and they've grown, you can gather them in a community and teach them every Saturday, 10 o'clock till 12.
I think
You
that's-
show them that this is how to say come, this is how you say go, this is
Yeah.
how you say love. It's just what I think.
100%. Like, beautifully said. It really starts from the bottom,
The
for lack
bottom,
of
yeah.
better words, because it is a. That's why I say I can't even blame the government too much. It's just, it needs to be. There needs to be a reorientation in society,
Exactly.
and it starts from the early years. It starts from the family units. It starts. I mean, religion
yes.
is the media. They're the biggest forms of influence, I would
Yeah.
say, on mentality. So if those spaces now become safer, become aware, and they can now drive like that awareness, then it will now shift, how families, how individuals change. And another thing, I want to correct you because you said deafness and dumbness. Incorrect speech. It's actually called ableist language, and it just it's very demeaning language when to use for a person with disability. And in Nigeria, I don't blame you because it's widespread.
Yeah, we
This is why-
say deaf and dumb
we
every
say deaf
time.
and dumb. We say leper. We say call them cripples. We say they're mute. Like, these things are not helpful. They are very harmful, right? A person that is a deafness is fine. That is a condition. You are deaf. But it's really just hearing impairment. And hearing impairment is on a spectrum. Some people are partially deaf. Some people are not even fully deaf, but they will now say you're deaf
cannot
and
hear
dumb.
very
Yeah,
well.
they're not dumb. They're actually very smart. A lot of people who are deaf, they're very brilliant people. And in fact, if that person can use sign language, they're smarter than you because you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? We're being for real.
No.
That's
Maybe because they learned it and I did not. So
Exactly.
in my opinion,
And
That's
personally, I would
their
say,
notch higher than you. That's what takes them
Exactly.
higher than you.
Yeah, they're
No,
If they're to
that's-
sign a deal, if there's an owner of a company your boss wants to sign a deal
Right.
with, and the CEO of that company is deaf and
Yeah.
only understands sign language, they're
Yeah.
not going to bring you to that
that's
meeting.
now you're talking
Don't
about
bring the other
now you're
person.
talking about situation. What if the CEO of that company can hear and it does not have hearing or speaking impediment?
I'm just saying
and you,
that-
as a smart person, that you are actually qualified, but the problem that is happening there right now is you understand sign language, and that's the only way you can communicate with the CEO, and the CEO does not.
And then you bring somebody that can interpret.
That
but
that
at the
makes
end of the day, what we are just saying is all of the blurred lines, we're making
Exactly.
it clear.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what she's saying is you may have, or the visually or hearing impaired
impaired, yeah.
person has something that you don't, which is a skill.
Yes.
That skill of interpreting with the hand is a skill that you don't have.
Exactly.
And in certain places, that may just be what sets them
That's
apart
an
from you.
advantage.
And
Yeah.
and what I'm actually thinking about is this: if that is actually a skill, I don't think I would not actually call that a skill, or maybe
Oh,
a
it's a
skill.
skill.
talent.
A skill actually,
A gift.
because
It's a skill.
but then they learnt it.
Yeah.
You learn skills every day.
For this to go around,
Yeah.
for us not to actually segregate without us knowing we are segregating, I actually think sign language should be something everybody
100%.
100%.
should know.
100. That's what we
In
said.
fact,
Start from
I
school.
think the government should actually make it one of our official languages.
There-
Because
there's actually a conversation happening that they want to include it in
In
go-
our
and
school.
that would be
In primary
that would be a
education,
welcome
yeah.
development.
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree, and it should be in primary education because that's when
Education,
their
yes.
mind is forming.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So, Amy, I want to know, when is the Forgotten Citizens premiering? First of all,
Yeah, so the Forgotten Citizens is premiering next month in December,
Okay.
and we're gonna have it around the International Day for Persons with Disability. Every year it's December
amazing.
3rd.
Oh, wow.
So really just celebrating them, and that's like the one day in the year that it's for all persons with disability.
everyone.
Although there's so many disability holidays throughout the year, celebrating like the individual types of disabilities. So and it also marks when we started the project like 4 years ago. Like we launched our campaign in December. In 2021 for crowdfunding to get
Amazing.
funds for the project.
So are you gonna have like a premiere show, or you just put it out online so everyone can know it's out?
We
What's
will
the
definitely.
plan?
We've had a few like screenings, and that's how we want to continue because that's in the heart of accessibility. We will we've had a few like small premieres in different places in Abuja and Lagos, in Italy when I at a film festival where we actually won best short documentary.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And that's just really just making it widespread. But because I'm doing it for I'm not doing it for myself. I want it to be accessible for the people that it's for. And the best way I can think to do that is to put it online.
Yeah.
So they can see themselves and it can be spread and shared. And it's not just like something I'm like gatekeeping,
Yeah.
it's not right. Yeah. And a lot of filmmakers
Congratulations.
want this. Thank you so much. A lot of filmmakers want the accolades. They want to just premiere it around the world and get all the awards, but that's just not fair. There's a slogan that there's a popular slogan that marginalized communities use, which is nothing about us without us.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to tell a story about a marginalized or underrepresented group, they need to be part of that. They need to be able to, be the movers and shakers of whatever you're trying to do around them. And so I don't want to now like hoard that and control how it's being shared and spread. I want to release it, put it out. And then by God's grace, if it sparks a conversation, I'm happy to partner with organizations, with government, with companies who want to have screenings, who want to, share the story in like educational institutions, religious institutions. I think it just needs to be widespread. And I hope that it inspires filmmakers and storytellers to also tell other stories better than I could tell, because I shared one dimension of it, but there's so many dimensions of disability and even just unrepresented voices that need to be told.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amy, for
Yeah.
coming. And as we're wrapping things up right
Thank you.
now, if you could leave your listeners with one word or one message about inclusion and the future of disability rights in Nigeria, what would it be?
Wow. I would leave the viewers with this. I don't believe that Nigeria can fully progress while leaving core members of its society out. I believe that every voice matters, every story matters. Inclusion is not charity; it is a right. It should be just a part of life because it's the human experience. And the future that I foresee for Nigeria and Africa and developing nations and economies is one where disability is not like hidden, it's not marginalized, and it's not also romanticized either. It's normalized. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And we can be part of making that happen.
Yes, I can't wait for this change to be impacted in this generation and the next. And as Amy said, we have to be the change that we seek and we
100%.
deserve. Okay. Thank you so much, Amy, for coming.
Thank
What
you for
is the
having me.
a social media handle that they can watch this documentary from next month?
Okay, so the production company is Seda Studio. You can follow us at We Are Seda on Instagram, and you can follow the documentary page, which is the Forgotten Citizens _, and all the updates will be shared on there with the link to YouTube or whatever platform that we showcase the full documentary.
This handle is for Instagram.
Yes, We Are Seda and the Forgotten Citizens _.
And
Just
then on
one.
YouTube as well.
Yeah, so you can just go Seda Studio on YouTube, which is also, I think, YouTube at We Are Seda. So they're all very in sync. But if you go to Instagram, the link's already there.
They're on Facebook and TikTok as well.
They're merged.
Oh, okay.
TikTok, we haven't. We're launching that soon. Yeah.
Okay.
They're very fast with
Fantastic.
TikTok. Thank
Yeah.
Fantastic. This has been such an insightful episode, educative as well. and an eye opener, if I do say so myself. Thank you, Ames, for coming.
Thank you for
And
having
I can't
me.
wait to watch the full episode or the full documentary when it drops. My name is Becca Beckins. This is Adela, as per usual. And remember, every
Yeah.
Thursday we drop a trivia
Yeah.
question, right?
Where you can win yourself audience 20K. So don't miss that.
Cool
for
cash,
nothing.
people.
I know our audience are also waiting for the full documentary of Ames,
The Forgotten
The
Citizens.
Forgotten Citizens. So keep fingers crossed. As soon
Yes,
as it
sir.
drop, boom, we are that change we deserve or we want to see in our community, in our
Yes.
society. And get ready. That time is here.
All right,
So,
the vision is absolutely clear. Do ensure that you follow us on all our social media platforms at Niger Pulse Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. And on X is at Niger Pulse Pod, okay? We are signing out. Thank you, Amy, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Ciao.
yeah, bye.